low-budget films that unexpectedly made a huge profit. As a movie enthusiast, you've probably watched so many movies and still can't wait to watch the new releases. But has the thought of low-budget films ever crossed your mind? Well, an exciting and fulfilling movie doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg. This post will reveal some of the low-budget films that unexpectedly made a huge profit. Without further ado, let's get into the list. Halloween, $300,000 budget. Halloween, categorized under the slasher genre, is an exciting film that's received a lot of viewership since it was launched. Thanks to John Carpenter, a recognized horror movie director, he had put so much effort into directing this movie, and it came out a success. Halloween features Jamie Curtis, a babysitter, at a young age. As Jamie does her job, she does it with lots of worries because she's being stalked by another person, a madman with psychosis. Despite a low budget, the movie made a huge income. It's estimated to have made about $70 million, which is quite amazing. Open Water, $500,000 budget. You can guess what this movie's all about from its title. It revolves around open waters, but there's more to that. Don't just panic because of the mention of open water. This movie's a must-watch for those people that love the anxiety that comes with water. Open Water was released in 2003. It features two scuba divers carrying out their usual activities, but will end up stranded in waters when they least expect. The worst thing is there's a shark that's loitering around, making the scene worrisome. A film the producer only used a handheld camera would generate $52 million. What a profit! Supersize Me, $65,000 budget. Producers will agree that documentaries don't have to cost so much money, and most don't make exceptional profits when compared to other movie genres. The film Supersize Me is not your ordinary documentary. Despite a budget of $65,000, the film made over $52 million. So what's it all about? Morgan Spurlock has directed the Supersize Me documentary, which features an individual whose life revolves around eating McDonald's the entire month. The film's director tells a lot about fast food, making everything exciting. Once, $160,000 budget. If you like spending time watching love-oriented plays or stories, this is a play you're not to go wrong with. It feels so real that you'll watch it in one sitting. With only $160,000 as their budget, the director of this film, the talented John Carney, managed to organize a very small crew and cast to create a masterpiece. Once features Glenn Hansard and Marketa Irglova as their stars. They take up their roles quite well. Their outstanding performance, especially on the music part, makes them win an Academy Award. This romantic movie made more than $20 million. The Blair Witch Project, $60,000 budget. Nobody would have thought that a horror movie with a budget of $60,000 could earn a whopping $248 million. The Blair Witch Project made that possible. It's among the few horror movies that even those who don't find this genre entertaining will fall in love with. You'll confuse this film with a documentary because of how the directors produced it. The production style made it not cost a lot of money. Also, the fact that it's super quality and has some fact and some fiction aspects make the film a must-watch. Paranormal Activity, $15,000 budget. This is another horror movie on our list that made it big at the box office. The title looks quite captivating. That's a glimpse of how this horror movie turns out when you watch it. It only took a tight budget of $15,000 to produce. Oren Peli, the director of Paranormal Activity, made the film out of love, despite being his first film ever to make, using simple cameras and spending a low amount of money. The film exceeded Oren's expectations. Mad Max, $300,000 budget. Who would have thought that a film with a budget as low as $300,000 would end up making over $100 million? Well, that happened with the Mad Max movie. Despite some movies having achieved this milestone, this movie was highly rewarded for standing out uniquely. Those who have watched it have no doubt that it stands out. One more thing, this film is categorized among the classics made very well in the 90s, with their directors not spending so much money on them. Swingers, $200,000 budget. Movie enthusiasts expect a lot from famous actors, but when it comes to new performers, nobody thinks a particular movie can stand out. When Jon Favreau and Vince Vaughn featured in Swingers, most people expected an average performance, but the movie turned out pretty amazing. Swingers is a comedy, the actors focus on comedy, and the content is top-notch. The film doesn't have many settings, and everything comes out naturally. That explains why the movie became a favorite option for many and made more than $4 million. Napoleon Dynamite, $400,000. This is another comedy that's made it on our list. Jared Hess directs it. Those who have watched Jared's movies will agree that he's a master of producing movies with a unique style. When he came up with Napoleon Dynamite, his focus was giving the audience a cool, funny, and low-budget comedy that doesn't sound obvious. At one point, Jared said the energy and creativity he showcased during the movie production were unmatched and paid off handsomely. The film made $46 million. The Evil Dead, $400,000 budget. The author of this movie, Sam Raimi, never thought that The Evil Dead would turn heads the way it did. Sam went through a lot when coming up with the movie. Sources say that he worked in his dad's store and as a cab driver. After juggling the two jobs for quite some time, Sam had a little budget to produce what he had scripted. His horror film, The Evil Dead, did not disappoint. What makes this horror classic is that it uses some humor that keeps the audience glued to their screens. No wonder it made $29 million. My Left Foot, $600,000 budget. My Left Foot is based on real events. The movie, directed by Daniel Day-Lewis, features a young man, Christy Brown, with cerebral palsy. Despite Brown having this condition and making him almost paralyzed, he manages to make use of his left foot. With time, he becomes a painter, writer, and poet. What an inspiration! This 1989 movie brings out a story that inspires those with some life-threatening conditions and their guardians. It also makes people see those abled differently, as capable in different capacities. Daniel made $14.7 million from this film. Night of the Living Dead, $118,000 budget. The director of Night of the Living Dead, George Romero, is not new in the filmmaking scenes. He's made some of the most watched movies globally, especially zombie movies. Many upcoming directors will reach out to him whenever they get stuck creating zombie movies. But our focus today is on the low-budget film he made and generated millions. In fact, Night of the Living Dead was the film that fast-tracked George's career. The answer will surprise you if you wonder what this film could have made. It's a whopping $30 million, and many think it's even more than that. American Graffiti, $750,000 budget. The director of this movie, George Lucas, has walked a long journey in his production career. Before he produced American Graffiti, George worked on Star Wars, which featured Robert Duvall. The unexpected happened upon successfully producing the movie, and George only had $750,000 at hand, which he decided to use in his next project. The next project was named American Graffiti, and it came out perfect. It's true to say that even the producer, being not so famous then, didn't expect such a low-budget film to blossom the way it did. The drama film was even nominated for Academy Awards. It made over $115 million. The Hills Have Eyes, $230,000 budget. Would you love to watch the cult horror movie that topped the most watched list of the 70s? Your selection will not be complete without including The Hills Have Eyes. With a budget of $230,000, the film would end up making an incredible $25 million, a figure that's quite high if you look at the profit-cost ratio of the movie. The Hills Have Eyes narrates a story of a family stranded in a desert. While still there, the unfortunate happens. They get invaded by a desert family, and everything turns out horrifying. Friday the 13th, $700,000 budget. You'll think that this movie made $59 million because of its title, which makes one curious, but that's not the case. Most movies with outstanding titles have never made huge profit margins. The film Friday the 13th made millions because of its setting, context, and events. This popular cult movie is a product of Sean Cunningham and Victor Miller. Nobody would think that these two would work on a low budget to produce an incredible movie. Interestingly, the two made more than 10 movies and went ahead to make millions from their business. Rocky, $1 million budget. Sylvester Stallone is already a household name when it comes to production, but you probably don't know that despite Sly's status in movie production, he was once worked with a small budget. Rocky is a boxing-oriented movie made with a $1 million budget. It came out as one of the best Sylvester's ever produced. Despite being the cheapest on his list, the movie made him well known to the world. The cumulative amount made from Rocky goes beyond $117 million. Blue Valentine, $1 million budget. If you've never thought that a producer would couple up as an actor and make an amazing movie, you need to watch Blue Valentine. It's a romantic drama film that features Michelle Williams and Ryan Gosling. The two are the main contributors to the success of this film, and they made over $16.6 million. The film tells of a couple at a young age. It walks you through how the two met, what both did during their courtship, and how everything turned out chaotic as the relationship ended.